Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon when you consume your media. I think that's sort of the standard welcome to Run It Back. I'm Menelik Fernandez, the host of this show. And of course, the premise of Run It Back remains the same, where we take teams that have played previously and we run it back, so to speak, where we talk about game preparation, things that worked, things that didn't work. Excuse me. Things we would do again versus things that we would change. As they say, hindsight is 2020, of course. The game that we're looking at in particular today is Kentucky versus Auburn from leap year of 2020, actually, February 29th, 2020. And we have today a bit of a unique experience. We have our first video guy joining us. Coach Andrew Ortelli is somebody that I actually met at a Rising Coaches Conference just over 2 years ago in Charlotte. I'm very happy to have this gentleman jump on. From every person that I've ever spoken to about him, keen young mind, somebody who's ahead of his time, somebody who's a descendant of a coach and will be in and around the game and very successful with it for some years to come. Andrew, if you give me a second, I want to try to do my best with a warm welcome, of course. You have been at the University of Kentucky basically forever at this point. Now it's going into your 11th season. You've been a video coordinator and you've been a GA. And if I'm not mistaken, you were also a student manager there as well. You've worked, of course, with USA Basketball as the U19 video coordinator. You have also worked with the Hoop Group as a runner in the past. I have just tremendous respect for what you do, and I'm very, very happy to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
Well, Coach, really appreciate you having me on. I'm glad we were able to reconnect through mutual friends of the Rising Coaches Conference. Anytime I get extended an opportunity to do something like this and help grow the game and try to give back, can't pass it up. So I really appreciate you giving me a platform and a forum to do so and have a great conversation talking hoops. What's better than that?
Yeah, absolutely love it. This is what we're in it for sure. I want to take a brief second and say thank you to all the coaches and people who tune in and watch, et cetera. I normally wind down the show with that, but when I look at the statistics of shows, most coaches tend to watch the beginning part of the show and then skip around. So I want to take a second and say thank you to all of you who tune in, and I hope you continue to find value in these discussions. And of course, the coaches that take their time to jump on and join us live. Really appreciate you guys. Let's go back in time. We're talking about a COVID era game on a leap year, two massive schools playing. So, give me a little bit of background. I know it's become second nature for you to be at a blue blood, a Power Five, a big time school, but give me a little bit of background of what this game would mean to you guys, where you are in your season, and then we'll delve a bit into obviously the scouting process, how that comes to fruition. But let's sort of start for the person who's perhaps living in a hole and doesn't really know what it's like when Auburn plays at Kentucky.
Well, what's interesting that you mentioned is, yes, like you see the games on TV and the crowds are going crazy and it's an unbelievable environment, but the process of what we do to prepare for these games, if you go about it the right way, and my dad was a high school coach and I've conversed with a bunch of different coaches from different levels, the effort and it's all the same. It's all the same. The stakes are no higher or no lower. It's just the visibility is a little different on that kind of stage. And what coach is really great at is it does not matter if we're playing Auburn on February 29th, with it being a leap year, or we're in our non-conference schedule with some of the low mid-major games. Our process and how we go about getting our teams ready to play is the same way. Now, that doesn't mean that we go about it the same way, because every team's a little bit different, but how we approach it, like when coach puts his stuff up on the board pregame, everything, his talk, how the assistants address the things leading up to the game, it's all the same. Doesn't matter if we're playing Louisville on New Year's Eve, even though, yes, we know that those games might be a little bit more high priority with fans and all that, because with how coach is and how he's always been his entire career, the players can feel if you put more stock in it, we got to win this game. Well, they're not worried about, they're worried about overperforming, and they're worried about instead of just falling back on their training and trusting what we do for us and trusting how we are preparing and approaching this game. If we do the things that we're supposed to do, they got to beat us. So we're prepared. We're ready to, guard their actions and key in on personnel, all this stuff we're going to talk about. But for this specific game, Auburn, since Coach Pearl's taken over at Auburn, it's really been a good league rivalry. We are 7-5 against them.
Okay.
Since Pearl took over. And we've ended up playing them out of conference. We ended up taking one on the chin a couple years ago in the Elite Eight in Kansas City. They caught lightning in a bottle, and they were terrific. And just when we get into our league, the SEC right now, the coaching across the board has never been better.
Right.
We got some. I think Rick Barnes is a future Hall of Famer. Nate Oates is terrific. Bruce Pearl is terrific. We got some really, really good coaches in this league. And because the coaching is so good, their ability to recruit and attract talent, the talent in the league has never been better. I said this, and I get kind of, not criticized for it a little bit because I may be a little biased. In terms of athletes, the SEC, in my opinion, it's the most athletic league in the country in terms of dudes getting up and down. Like we face some LSU the last few years. I mean, they have talented players.
Right.
Just the level of length and athleticism. So, but our league prepares us for postseason play because we end up facing basically any kind of style that you can potentially face. Slow it down in the half court. We play a lot of teams like the press too, kind of mix the game up, different kind of defenses. So by the time with our non-conference schedule and what we've seen through conference, and coach says, and it's true, we are everybody's Super Bowl. Anytime you get a chance to play Kentucky and you get a chance, like it's a t-shirt game. If it's Saturday, it's probably game day, wherever we're at. Like the first time we played Auburn that season, we lost. It was down at Auburn. Saturday was game day. So like they'll throw a parade when they beat us. So by the time we get to postseason, we've seen everything.
For sure.
We just got to be focused, stick to our guns in terms of what we do with scouting, worry about us, and then they gotta beat us. They gotta play us for 40 minutes. So, but yeah. And so last thing I'll say about this specific game, we won this game. After this win, we had 2 games left in the league. We ended up clinching the league with this game.
There you go.
By 3 games that year, which kind of goes, and a lot of people say, when the pandemic hit less than 2 weeks later, a lot of our team was rolling, which is true. A lot of teams were playing great at that point, but we were really we thought with our backcourt that year and how at the NCAA tournament, guards control the tournament. We thought that we had a really good chance of making a run because of our backcourt and how well we were playing. But Auburn's a great matchup. It's a tough matchup every time we play.
Love it. Thanks for the background. Actually, for those who are listening, there's some coaches in the chat definitely agreeing that most likely the most athletic league. So they're clearly in agreement with you. And to the point of the coaching and how great it is, I've had the good fortune of coaching against Coach Oates, as you mentioned. When he was at Buffalo, they came up and played us at York. And just like you said, I mean, light years ahead, making all kinds of in-game adjustments.
Offensive juggernaut.
Yeah, like, oh, that was really intelligent. Look at that. Like
it's changing the way that how we teach and because we got to guard their stuff. And they have done in terms of lineups and all that. It's like, all right, we gotta, because we gotta play, like, as long as he's there, they're not going anywhere.
Right.
So the coaching's terrific.
So moving on into you guys specifically, you played 4 nights before this game versus Texas A&M. So you're coming off of that. Let's move into all the details that you can share about the scout. Like when do you start it? How many games out does coach have you watching? What's your share of the process?
Yep.
Is it conveyed to just the coaches, or is it conveyed to the coaches and the players? Is there modification in between? And I understand I ask a lot at once. But I want you to just kind of get going and have your flow, so to speak, where it's, just let us know sort of what that process is like.
I appreciate that. So in terms of any specific game, we will break down their last 5 games. And this is unique. This was Coach Barbie, who's now at Central Michigan. This is one of his things that I really like, and I'll definitely take forward. You can really do it at the college level. Professionally, there's just too many games. Hard to really go about it that way.
Right.
We would do the last 5 and any losses that they had.
Okay.
We want to see the teams that ended up beating them, what was the reason. So that's kind of how, regardless if it's within that last 5 or not.
Right.
So we do last 5, win, loss, whatever, plus any losses. So in terms of getting film ready, what we do, so we'll do the last 5, but we try to stay 5 games ahead of what's happening in the video room.
Wow.
So basically, as the games are once we get to conference play, as the games are happening, we got myself, we have a GA, got another student worker. We just basically, we got a schedule laid out. Who played that night? We come in the next morning. Who played that night? And we cut those games. We break those games down as they happen. So they're just ready to go. And then when it's time and when we break them down live, we'll code some information, but a lot of the stuff in our process is done post breakdown. Like live, we're obviously breaking down offense, defense. We'll do possession type, man zone, press, out of bounds, underside, out of bounds, after timeout, that kind of stuff. And we'll do play type. Was it a ball screen? Was it, a post up action? Was it a screen away? Was it a dribble handoff? Was it an isolation? So we'll have all that like kind of primary info ready. And then when it's time for the scout, that's when we'll really kind of dive in a little bit deeper, start to look at actions, organize those actions, see if there's any play calls associated. Defensively, how are they guarding these ball screen, dribble handoff, post up actions? Where is it like, how are they guarding a certain way in the middle third? Are they guarding a certain way on the outer third?
Right.
That's when we kind of really but we're not going to do that detailed stuff right away, because since we're just trying to get these games broken down as they happen, have the primary necessary information ready to go. And then once we get into the scout, that's when we'll really dive deep into what like this specifics. So in terms of Auburn, kind of backtracking it to the game before, Texas A&M. So we played them on a Tuesday night on the road in College Station. Texas A&M's last game that they had before us would have been on a Saturday, since we're Tuesday, Saturday in our league, sometimes Thursday games. So Texas A&M would have played that Saturday night. We'll break that game down live. Not in person, obviously, but through capture devices, we'll have it. So we'll have it broken down that night. So when the staff gets in the morning, so that A&M scout basically already done. And then we'll take a look at that last game on that Sunday morning, see if they put anything different, anything new, if there's any relevant information that needs to be added to the scout or to the action tape or personnels. We'll take a look at it. More often than not really. Usually, if they didn't do it in the last 4, they're not going to do it. And here's the other thing too, with us, anytime teams want to save stuff, they're not going to show it for us.
Right.
So like they're gonna put in a wrinkle. They're saving it for when they're not going to show it within that last 5, because they're getting ready to play us. So by about midday Sunday, I'm done with what I need to do at Texas A&M. Whoever of the assistant coaches, whoever their scout that is, it's their responsibility. They're doing the play diagrams and putting the scout together for coach. We do no scouting reports to the players at all. He doesn't believe in it. We'll show tape. We'll send it to their phones. They can review stuff that they want. if they want to look at we've got this open dialogue where it's like, hey, I need to see so-and-so's offensive possessions because I'm going to be in the garden. We'll send them stuff. But in terms of paper scouts, coaches never believed in it.
Interesting.
Midday in terms of the players for the.
I get it.
Yeah, There's
may I interrupt? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Let me just ask you this: how is that being sent to the players? Like, do you guys have like a WhatsApp group that you're sharing?
We've got we've got a bunch of different things that we do have, but for the players specifically, it's under Fast Model. It's called Fast Scout.
Yeah.
It's a phone app, and what's great about it, we can see who watched it and who didn't.
Right.
And kids are kids, and like, oh. And then I love the excuses too, where it's like I was watching it with so and so. He had it on his phone. I was
sure he did.
All right, sure. So we can see who's watching the stuff. But regardless if they watch, we'll show it to him. We'll show it to them. So there's no excuse. Like they'll see. But if they want to watch other stuff on their own, not mandatory, they can hit me, or if a coach tells me, hey, you got to send this to him because this is going to be a matchup, go ahead and do that. So midday Sunday, we're done with A&M in terms of what we need to do to prepare. Then Sunday, Monday, they're putting it. Sunday will be like a walkthrough type of day because we had just played a game on a Saturday. They're walking through some of the A&M stuff. Monday, we'll practice. We're incorporating in our practice a lot of this, a lot of the scout team stuff and what we're going to do defensively and what are they, all that kind of stuff Monday. And then we fly out Monday for A&M for that Tuesday night game. So as soon as basically we're done with our process Sunday, we jump right into all Auburn. Now, all these Auburn games are done, but now the real process starts of, all right, let's go through offensive actions. Let's see if there's any play calls associated. How are they guard now? What's different with when we play a team for a second time, like an Auburn in this situation, part of my process is before I even watch a game, I will go back to the previous action tape that we put together for the first game.
Right.
So I can re-jog my memory of play calls, actions, kind of how, because the way we put the scout tape together, we're putting it in order of most frequent stuff that they run.
Right.
Like, all right, what's the primary stuff? Then it just re-jogs my memory. I've got that. Same thing with the personnel tape. I watch that through just to kind of see, give me a frame of reference as to what we're looking at. And then when I start watching the games, and it's like, okay, this guy's really playing. We've got Ken Palm and all these different metrics we can look at what's happening in the last five, who's playing more than other, at different points of the year. And then before I start looking at the last five, after I look at our action tape from the first time we played them, and then the personnel tape that we showed our guys first time we played them, I watch our game against them before looking at anything else in the last five, especially this go around, because they ended up beating us. It's so like, what happened in this game? And there were a bunch of different things that were going on. We had to tweak it for the second game. Matchups just didn't really pan out. They ended up shooting 44 free throws in that game.
Right.
So we just didn't really do a great job of adjusting to the officiating that game.
Right.
And
what a diplomatic way to express that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I can't, like, if coach is up in the press conference and he makes a comment about the officials, he's getting fined.
Right.
So, you can't talk about the refs. But they ended up shooting 44 free throws in a 40-minute game. So we did not really do a good, regardless of were they fouls or not, they're calling them fouls. We didn't adjust. But and Isaac Okoro that year was their best player, who ended up going, I believe, fourth in the draft in 2020. And he was just such a matchup problem due to his physicality at that size.
Right.
So we just kind of had to figure out. We had a bit of a smaller team in terms of our 1, 2, and 3. We had three point guards with Hagens, Maxey, and Quickly. So we just kind of had to figure out, like, all right, how are we, for the second game, how are we going to approach that? And then a couple of their actions that when they were running, the way that we'll get into it a little bit after watching the game, really, really gave us problems. And we kind of had to tweak our defensive scheme a little bit to get ready. And it basically kind of took them out of one of their actions that they love to go to. So after reviewing our film, breaking down our play, and I had already broken down since we had already played them. So because we'll do a self-scout every game, and that's part of my post-game process for every self-scout.
You're ahead of me.
Everything's already in.
But I love it.
What's that?
I said you're ahead of me in my questions. It's always one that I kind of ask, but no, I love it. We'll get into that.
No, it's always we have our stuff, we've got their stuff, data associated to it, who scored what, who turned, all that stuff. So we've got that. That's already done. I won't have to waste time going through that. So then once that's done, then I get to the last 5. Now, at this point in the year, since we had played them, I think like February 1st, the last 5 games almost led us up to the last time we played them. And they didn't have any losses in between when we played them and that last 5. So probably didn't have to, probably for this scout, it was literally just last 5 in our game. So it would have been 6 games, which is considerably on the low end for this time of the year, but it's just kind of how the games fell on the schedule. So
Andrew, I want to jump in for a second.
Yeah, please.
And I apologize for interrupting
no problem.
everyone, but I just want everybody who listens or is watching to really take in what Coach Ortelli is telling us about their process and how, as a coach, we all want to do what you guys are doing and don't necessarily always have the manpower or don't necessarily always have the ability to do so. But everybody really needs to take in what really goes into a 5-out team truly. And what I mean by that is a team that is watching 5 of the previous games of the matchup plus the other matchup. In a 30-game season, you're talking about 150 games minus the overlap games, of course.
Yeah.
And then adding in all of their losses. So, gentlemen,
it probably takes about, for a 40-minute college game, if I'm going to really go in, and like I said, this is when we've already got like man, zone, out of bed, all that stuff's already tagged, just the general stuff. It probably takes about 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on if a team presses a lot or there's a ton of fouls, to really break down every single game and to get all the information. So you're talking.
Yeah, and you're talking about an hour.
Talking 5 out, 5 out. But then that's the thing, though. Once that's done, then because of the computerized programming, it's just you filter it and everything.
Sure.
So, and I've got some experience to this now at this point. I'm able to tag stuff, and as I see it, I'm like, all right, I know that's going to be on the long edit, or I know that's going to be on the short edit. I'll just throw that in there, so I don't have to go back a second time, and you know what I mean. So it's just kind of developmental shortcuts to it. But and again, we're so blessed that we have the resources, and if you're at a place that doesn't have, I think one of the biggest things is just figuring out for yourself what's feasible, what's realistic that you can do with the manpower that you have, but you're able to cover as much basis as you possibly can. You're probably not going to be the things that we can, and we're not, reinventing the wheel with how we scout. But we're able to just but I'll say that any Power 5 school, they're going to have the resources to be able to code out specific things and break down all that because that's why, you're at a Power 5 school has got those kind of resources. But you just gotta figure out what works for you and in your process. But I would say regardless of manpower, it's probably, if you're doing it right, it's going to take about 45 minutes to an hour to break down each game.
And that's 45 minutes to an hour for somebody who's experienced and good at it.
It's
right. Like somebody who's on the relative early part of that trajectory.
Yeah, but I would also say too, you don't want to stay too, if you're looking at a game for 3 hours, then there's something not, then either kind of modify what you're doing.
Yep.
Or, you know what I mean? So so you got it. There's a sweet spot. There's a sweet spot to everything with it.
For sure.
But so we'll go through the last 5. play calls, actions, scheme, whatever, all that kind of stuff. And then what I will do is I'm more over Sunday, working on it Monday. And then just like anything else, you work for a boss, you work for, whomever, even though like, all right, my mind, I'm on Auburn now. Coach is calling me into his office, an assistant. Hey, we need this for A&M. We're going to show the guy. So it's like, got to be able to change gears quickly.
Yeah.
Just so whatever you have planned for the day.
Yeah, forget it.
Yeah. So you got to give yourself plenty. It's like, there's no excuse though. Like if a massive curveball's thrown, that doesn't mean that, I don't have time to like finish the long edit before I get on the plane. Well, no, because if you don't finish the long edit before you get on the plane for Auburn, you're not going to give yourself enough time to get done what you need to get done. So we get into, Monday, I'm on Auburn, but I'm also kind of back in my mind. All right, I got to be ready. The A&M switch isn't off yet. It's still activated somewhat. And then we practice Monday. We're on the plane to College Station. Well, on the plane, it's just kind of, again, through trial and error and figuring out what works for me, what I end up using that time for is I already have the long edit done. I will take that long edit and I will make the short action tape, which we try to keep to 5 to 6 minutes. In a perfect world, I love anything under 4 minutes video-wise.
Right.
Short enough to send to people if you need to text it. But reality, college level, like I've talked to a bunch of different people professionally, and that's kind of the sweet spot that you hear, 4 minutes. But professionally, it's a little different just because with the amount of games you got, and it's a copycat league, so you're seeing a lot of the same stuff. In college, you might, with A&M plays completely different than Auburn.
Interesting.
So you can't. It's at least through my experience. You don't want to have too much, but with our short action tape, I try to keep it under 6 minutes. 5 to 6 is kind of that sweet spot because anything over 45 to 50 clips, you start to lose them. You start to lose their attention a little bit. So the long edit's probably going to be about 200 clips, about 20 minutes worth of stuff, and I get that down to about 45 to 50. And it's just, again, how the edit will be laid out. We'll start off with trans. So when we put an action tape together, unless there's a specific special circumstance, it's all offensive stuff.
Right.
We won't put any defensive stuff in there. Where we do have defensive stuff ready, it's more of a concept edit. So I'm jumping back and forth a little bit. Let's say,
I love it.
So short edit when I'm on the plane to A&M, that will be consolidated down. I might need to fine tune some things, but basically that's done. So when we land in College Station, I can now shift gears back to Texas A&M. So because I know walk through that night, shoot around the next day, questions are going to come up, and that's where I'll have obviously all our A&M stuff. I can kind of look back and see, all right, because coaches are continually watching film that day.
Yep.
They're like, hey, Mississippi State did this in the post to A&M. Let's see, let's have the stuff. So you can't, like I said, you can't turn that light off on the A&M game, even though we've moved on to Auburn. So game's over in College Station. Most often that Auburn, they're going to play that same Tuesday night. That'll be their last game before they play us on Saturday. Every now and then, which kind of stinks for us, but it's just the reality of the situation, they'll play the next night on a Wednesday. Didn't happen in this circumstance. The reason why I don't like it is because, all right, you got to kind of wait to finalize everything after that last game. Yeah. So kind of shorten that, especially then if it's they play Wednesday and then you're on the road Saturday. So that means you leave Friday. Usually that doesn't happen, but it happens every once in a while. But didn't happen in this situation.
Yeah, so
Auburn plays Tuesday night. Depending on, which can be great for us, like if we play at 9:00 and the Auburn game's at 7, we'll have somebody live break it down, one of the student assistants or whomever, and then they'll be able to send it to us and we'll have it for the staff for their iPads right after the game in College Station. Now, more often than not, Actually, because we always end up being like the later game. If we're at 9 and they play at 7, that can get done. But let's say that's not the case, then we got to normally wait till we get. So in College Station, after the game, we will load up Coach Cal's iPad with all the. So he won't watch any Auburn until that point.
Right.
And then we'll put that night's game against A&M on his iPad, and then all the Auburn games. And then whoever scouted is for Auburn, I've already been in conversation with them. They've already been watching games. The other coaches who doesn't have the Auburn scout, we still load up their iPads with, and it's just an MP4 file. They're able to watch the game. And then when we get back, they can go and tag whatever specific things that they want. So we fly back. Wednesday, we'll have that game ready in the morning, the Tuesday night Auburn game. Same process that we did with A&M. The scout's basically done, but if there's anything different that they did that we need to add or subtract or whatever, we'll finalize that. Now in preparation for Auburn, I'll keep this short and sweet because I know I'm kind of rambling a little bit.
No, you're good. I love it. I love it.
So for us, our schedule wise, we play Tuesday night. Wednesday, you have to have one mandatory no practice, no basketball activity off day a week. So that will be Wednesday for us. Now, Wednesday is a huge scout day. That's where we really knock everything out that we need to knock out for Saturday. And specifically, the other coaches that aren't involved in the scout specifically and with Coach Cal, he'll start to watch those Auburn games. That's the day that anything they need specifically done, that's where I'll take care of that. And then Thursday, so we're talking 2 days out before the game, we'll always do some type of concept edit. And the way Coach is, it's 7 to 10 clips of whatever the concept is. We're not, because the way his mind works and how like he's one thing to the next, he's not watching. Now he'll watch all of the games because he's doing his due diligence. But if we're clipping stuff out, whatever the concept is, if it's not 7 to 10 clips, and it's the best stuff's got to be at the front because he'll be like, what's going on? What are we doing? So 7 to 10 clips. So like Auburn specifically, and we'll get into kind of what we did for them. So what really hurt us the first game against them, and I'm sure you'll have a couple clips of it, is they, within their actions, they do such a good job. They've got their cutters action. That's kind of their false motion. It's almost like flex. But they kind of manipulate different guys in different spots to go at different matchups. And they basically use that as a false motion to then get into some type of ending action, some pin down, dribble handoff,
right?
Some type, something else. Well, what they really killed us is they'd get into their false motion, they'd hit a slot, they'd go slot the wing, and they'd do such a good job. We call it a follow, but they would run and chase and kind of high hands, it's damn near a moving screen, but they don't make any contact. They drill it and teach it really well, you can tell. And it's almost like a ghost slip, but it's basically a rub shallow. And those guards, they time it so well. They do such a good job of driving off that. And in our first game, they were just off that. They must have ran that 10 times, and they got the ball in the lane 8 or 9 times. We were getting caught up on that. The weak side help wasn't where it was supposed to be. So we kind of had to. So for that concept edit, we picked out the best 7 to 10. And then Coach Barbee, who was kind of our defensive coordinator, we looked at, all right, this is how we, and a lot of the issues with that, it was more so, the game plan wasn't where it needed to be for that action. We thought that we could guard it one way, and it just didn't work out, So the second time we played them, the adjustment was the first time we were chasing over the top, and that shallow action, that follow, it was happening too high up on the floor to really chase over the top. So we worked on going under, meeting on the other side, because their guards that year, they weren't elite perimeter shooters. They're good, but it's like we can't keep giving that up, that just bat out of hell nail drive that they were getting.
Right.
And he really did a good job the second game of, and we just drilled it those 3 days. We're going under on the action, and then that weak side those two on that double side, you're not leaving that nail. And if they end up passing it, we got to X switch out, that's fine. but like we are not letting this guy just turn the corner. If you've got to just stay there, and if your guy cuts, well, like I said, X out or go with him, whatever, but you're not leaving that nail. We really got to provide nail help. So that was the concept edit for that game. So that would have been Thursday. Again, 7 to 10 clips. And there might have been some different things, like Auburn, they love the press and they do a lot of off, which is it's tough to get the ball in. They bring their X4 who's, instead of being on the ball, he's off the ball and he's just taking cutters away. And you got to try to break the press 4-on-5 since that, so they, and their length and their athleticism. So that might've been something we showed as well. Can't really remember specifically. That would have been on Thursday. Friday, day before the game, we'll show the personnel edit. Our GA is in charge of that. Now, again, resources. So the way we go about personnel, and this is just how coach has always been, there's been a couple circumstances where we've deviated, but not. And the only reason why we did with this part of the process, it would have been postseason, and we weren't sure about injuries or whatever. So we may have needed to add a guy to the scout. When it comes to depth chart personnel, we will only review the team's top 8 guys. That's it. So, like, it doesn't matter. Like, our 14-15 season, when we platooned, we had 5 and 5.
Yep.
And leaving 2 guys, like, that's just not – coach he'll only want to process 8 guys. Because here's the thing, too. Like, if their ninth guy, and, again, through the scouting process, like, looking at depth charts, we know who their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is. We know who their 3 guys coming in off the bench. Very rarely is your 9th guy averaging over 10 minutes a game. And if your 9th or 10th guy who's averaging less than 10 minutes a game, if he's the one that's killing you, and because you really didn't, then you're not winning that game.
It's not the process that's the problem.
Exactly. So, but again, it's not like they don't know who they are, because through the concept edits, through the action tape, they'll see them out there and we'll recognize that these guys play. But in terms of the scouting report that coach gets, and when we do the personnel edit, they will not be within that top 8.
Right.
So, and the way we lay out the personnel, and everybody's a little different. This is the only way I've known how to do it, but it makes the most sense to us. We'll go point guards. It's not like the best player, second best player. The point guards first, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to highlight within that who's their best player. But again, keeping everything consistent, because, well, this is the best guy. We'll get to that, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then looking at their 3 bench guys is okay. Like, who's their backup point 2, regardless of, like, we'll look at who's playing the most minutes of those other 3. But again, we're going to lay it out in the same way. Backup, point combo, then backup wing will be 7, backup center will be 8. And that there's a little bit of flexibility with that, but generally that's definitely the top 5. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The guys that will lay out on the bed, that might change a little bit, but that's just kind of basic. And then when we do our personnel edit, our GA, he handles that. He's just going through, again, he'll get with whoever the coach is on that scout, or who's our defensive guy. Even if that's not his scout, he'll converse, like, what do you want for the edit? And then more often than not, it's not a highlight tape, obviously, but it's just how are they impacting the game offensively? And again, they're keeping it, again, it's 5 clips per guy. That's really it. Right. For the starters, and then the bench guys 3. And we got this software called Kyron Hugo Coach Paint. Again, resources.
Right.
Where we use it for recruiting as well. You're able to spotlight guys and do player tracking. And we don't do it for every single clip. We'll do it for the first clip for each guy. But again, because it's definitely not a necessary thing to have. But again, since we have the resources to do it, because these guys are going from game to game, matchup to matchup. If you can have a spotlight on a guy, be like, okay, that's who we're talking about, it helps a little bit.
For sure. I don't know. You actually sent me a copy of the video. I don't know if you want to show a little bit of what
you're sure
about. I think that'd be great.
And
while you cue that up, I'll just ask you a little bit about what you like. I mean, what a great summary of what you guys do leading into the game. First off, thank you so much.
Of course.
what kinds of things do they have you doing while you're in game?
Yep. So I am in charge of our halftime film.
Right.
So we show film at halftime. So I am not out on the floor during the game. I will be like at home. We're in our locker room, and we've got a system set up where we just get a feed right down the locker room. I'm able to live log the game. And then on the road, it's just kind of depending on their setup. I got to be, sometimes I'm out by the TV truck. Who knows? More often than not, now it's 2021. They've got a lot of different feeds. It's college is slowly creeping up to like what NBA can do in terms of being able to have in-house feeds and being able to do all of that.
Right.
Well, I'll actually be in the building, and we'll show clips at halftime. So, and the way coach is, I'll usually no one on the bench is allowed technically to have devices where they can communicate with people, but you can have someone who's not on the bench, like an administrator or whatever, and they can like, hey, coach wants you to pull this. So I can do that. But then with our halftime film, kind of the same process of I'm logging our stuff, I'm logging their stuff. I'm just paying attention because, again, of the few clips that they want, coach is kind of – and this is where it's big postseason, because in season you only get 15 minutes for halftime. Postseason you get 20. So having that extra 5 minutes, coaches are getting into a rhythm of their halftime talk. All right, let's go get them. But postseason, it's like, all right, that talk's over, and now there's 12 minutes left up on the clock. It's too much. You're not going to send your team out there. So that's where halftime film is really big. It's postseason, especially once we get into the NCAA tournament, because we're playing teams we haven't played all year. So they might, and the turnaround for games, especially that second game in a weekend, they might have done, they might have thrown a wrinkle in that we haven't seen yet in any other games, any concepts or whatever. And being able to see that at halftime is crucial. So that's what I'll do in the first. And I'm just trying to gather as much data as I can within our actions. How are they guarding? We run a ton of pin downs and, floppy. How are they guarding our stuff? Is the press bothering us? Just trying to get, and it's just a feel thing, but I've got a template laid out for us to be able to do that. So then I'll have that stuff clipped out. Sometimes you show it, sometimes you don't, but I'll have that ready for the first half. And then second half, it'll be usually breaking down the first half for anything that I didn't get for like my halftime stuff. I'll break that stuff down. And then same thing with second half. Or if there's another opponent scout game going on at that time, we'll make sure we've got at least that downloading so we can kind of start working on that.
Right.
So personnel that kind of basically takes care. Let me pull up the personnel.
Yeah, please. Let's take a look. Appreciate it.
So again, it's let me rewind it so you can kind of faintly see. So we'll put a little graphic there. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Thank you.
So we'll put a little slide together. Here's one of the biggest things. And again, a little bit of an older staff in terms of how long our guys have really been together with Coach Flint, Coach Robick. So we definitely incorporate analytics into what we do. Right. But they're just they're just kind of creatures of habit. So like this is one of their things they've always done since their UMass days. As you see on the bottom of the screen, guys shoot from three, what percentage of his shots are threes? Because one of the biggest things is, and you look at the numbers, it's true. The only way teams can really beat us is if they take a high volume of threes and make a high volume of threes.
Right.
Because of our length and athleticism, if we're forcing people inside the line and we're walling up and we can't give them uncontested twos because these are Division I players. They can make shots.
Right.
Contest everything and force them inside the line. It's going to be hard to shoot 35, 40%, period. But if we're letting these guys tee up, so it's, again, constant reinforcement of our principles. That's one of coaches that we take away the line. We don't even give them a chance to shoot a three. We'll force them inside the line. We'll scramble. We'll make them play inside the line and shoot contested twos. So we'll always see, we'll put a little slide up of a guy, and it's nothing fancier. And I'm actually trying to, we've got, love our staff to death, but again, creatures of habit. There might be some more aesthetically pleasing ways to go about this than what we do, but this is kind of always work. So I'm just trying to incorporate some new ideas, but we might change the layout of this because it is a little basic. But yeah, a little slide, boom, some key emphasis here. And then again, what's this guy shooting from three? So here it'll be the personnel edit. And you see right there that little spotlight. So it's just kind of, again, it's called Coach Paint. We're just able to quickly spotlight a guy. We can do a little pause, and it just shows, what a guy does. So even though they didn't run that action, that follow action, here's a great example. Ashton Hagens, who's probably one of our best defensive guards we've ever had. He kind of was caught sleeping this game. He was actually really terrific at covering the nail and swiping in and taking these balls away. But this game, he kind of was a little lost. This was for sure shown on some type of concept edit, this is definitely on the personnel edit. And Coach Barbie, you would have stayed and been like, Ashton, you are, especially with a guy, Isaac Okoro, who we'll see in the slide here. I can't remember off the top of my head what he was shooting from three. It's like, you mean to tell me you are ass to the dribbler instead of being in at the nail, providing help for Johnny Juzang, making him give this ball up. We have no weak side nail help, and he just gets right to the front of the rim. So that's why, again, reviewing. So like I said, that spotlight, it's really only on the first clip. It's
right.
Really for each guy. So that's why, again, part of the process for us. I'll stop this. You guys got an idea of that spotlight I wanted to show you.
Love it.
That's why reviewing that first game is so crucial for us if we ended up playing. Now, again, in our league, we only play teams for a second. We only play 5 teams for a second time. So it's historical, and it's just it's historical at this point. We always play Florida, Tennessee, Vandy twice, regardless of TV scheduling, because those are like the longest standing rivalries in the league. We play those 3 teams twice, and then the league will dictate, who we play the other 2 times twice on a rotating basis. Odds are it ends up being who they project to be one of the better matchups, better
right.
TV. It's like Auburn this year, because they just came off a Final Four run when they beat us in the Elite Eight. We ended up playing them twice the next year. So it's not like we're not getting like the bottom teams in the league twice. That never ends up happening. It's always going to be
I hear you.
Dogfight regardless. But having that opportunity the second time, that's what's so beneficial. And I would actually kind of like to look and see when we've played teams for a second time in our league, how well have we done? I don't know. That's something that, but I think we have done pretty well. Obviously we're super talented, but being able to go back to that, and they're doing the same. Auburn's obviously doing the same. So it's not like, no one's thought of this before, but being able to review that of the first time we played a team because of the turnaround. And again, we had played that team a few weeks prior, and it's not like professional where you're playing 3 or 4 games. You're only playing 2 games a week. So we are really hone down on certain things, where professionally, you got to be really, really efficient with what you're doing and being able to just keep it simple, because you can't overload guys. With us, we can be, take a little bit more time in certain aspects. And that's with the personnel. And then finally, the action tape, we don't show. And again, there might be certain things that are built out of that we would show a concept on that Thursday morning or that Thursday before practice. But game day, Saturday, the only time the players see the action tape is pregame meal, day of the game, which is 4 hours before. That's it. It's the only time they see it. Now, we've walked through it on the floor. We've built out in our pre-practice stuff. If, Auburn, they run a lot of zoom action, pin down, dribble handoff. So, okay, then in our, big guard breakdowns, we're working on, all right, if the pin down dribble handoffs happening outside the 3-point line, we're going under. If it's happening underneath the 3-point line, we're chasing over the top. Big will string it out a little bit. So we'll break all that stuff down. Like, they'll do breakdowns in practice. But in terms of us as a team watching the action tape, pregame meal, which is 4 hours before the game. Now, as we get into the season, certain guys may hit me, hey, I want to watch a little bit more stuff. Then I'll send them the long edit. Like I mentioned to you before, if they want to watch individual, like, you know, can I get some more clip? Like, because again, the personnel edit, you know, it's only 5 clips a guy. So it's like, I need a little bit more. Then yeah, we'll send them, you know, we'll have 25 to 50 clips. We'll pull all their possessions and assists so they can kind of see if they want a little bit more. And again, where that's crucial is postseason, because there's lack of familiarity with
and I think this would perfectly tie into what you're talking about here. I think the last little bit that I want to ask before we delve into a little bit of film from the game is, you did mention that you do have something in place where you do a post-game review.
Yep.
Talk to us a little bit about you know, how you guys assess your own scout, what you're putting in that review, sort of you know, like, okay, this was an execution problem, or this was something that probably should have gone in and we just missed it type deal. Let us know a little bit of that post-game review, what goes in there.
Absolutely.
And how that works.
So self-scouts, what we'll do is a coach will be designated, an assistant coach. He'll be the defensive guy, and another coach is the offensive guy. And then they will clip out what they want for, we'll do good and bad offense and defense. So, but then again, with how coach is, this is kind of where my responsibility falls in, like, coaches only watching 7 to 10 clips of whatever it is. So 7 to 10 good offense, 7 to 10 bad offense, 7 to 10 good defense, 7 to 10. Yeah, that's it. So there are some times where, like, you know, if it was this season, it would have been Coach Payne and Coach Barbie. There are like 40 clips that it's like, all right, but they give me, and again, you know, they trust me. They give me the leeway to get that down. Like, you see, and if there's a lot of like repeatable action, then pick out but get that thing down to like 7 to 10. And so, and again, that's not a hard 7 to 10. It might be 12. It's all flexible, but that's kind of the rule of thumb. So we'll do good and bad offense and defense. And then Coach Cal will always have his clips. He's a little bit more old school. Again, we push everything to his iPad. So he's old school to the point where, like, he'll have a sheet, he'll do a running time thing, and this is what I want. Now, that's just with him. Our coaches, assistants are a little bit more tech savvy. They can actually go in and clip out their own stuff that they want, and I'll just kind of organize it and put it together for them. But in terms of post-game assessment, you know, I'm going through, I'm logging all of our plays, especially, and I do this for whoever we play because it's just good to have, because a lot of the non-conference teams we play, we end up playing them somewhere down the road. So I'll go through, I log all their stuff as well, even if we won't see them that year. But in conference, obviously, I always do it. And we're associated, you know, shot by, tracking all that player data, who shot what, where on the floor, you know, shot clock, all that kind of stuff. And then there are some pretty basic stat reports that we'll put together. Coach has been big on, it's been his entire career. He loves track, and this is a subjective stat. He loves tracking rebound attempts. Did you go after rebounds offensively and defensively? Now, it's not going to show up on Ken Palm. It's not going to show up because, again, he's not too concerned. Did you get the rebound? Did you even attempt to go get it? And it all kind of depends upon what your role is with our team. So
is that on the offensive and the defensive side?
Offensive and defensive. Now, if the shot goes in, we don't, because to keep things consistent for us, even if a guy went after the ball but the shot went in, it's because then you're having to go through. It's only on missed attempts. Did people end up going? I know that you can say, well, it's just, it makes it simpler for us. But we end up doing, we'll kind of get a flow of it just through our experience. You can just filter out all the misses and go about it that way. But it's just because we got to do it for offense and defense. It's just kind of easier to do it within the flow of the game and that's a post-game evaluation. We're not going to do that live. But so we'll go through, did he go attempt to rebound the ball? And then a couple things that will, again, personnel based. Guards, their total attempts are going to end up being lower because they have less rebounding responsibilities.
Sure.
Their percentages may be higher because, again, lower attempts. one of Coach's biggest things that he's always been about his entire career is one-handed catches. He will stop practice, throw his clipboard, throw his whistle. It's a Larry Brown thing that he learned from Coach Brown when he was a GA for him back at Kansas. Everything is caught and attempted to catch with two hands. It's his biggest thing. We're not losing a game over a one-handed fumble because you were too lazy to attempt to catch a ball with two. So a one-handed rebound attempt, even if they went after the rebound, if he goes with it with one, it's a negative. He doesn't get it. So what we'll also do is on that post game, we'll have it on, we'll have a printout of who did what. We'll also, again, in our post game stuff, we'll tag the attempts. So if they're like, hey, we need to see all of Emmanuel Quickly's non-attempt rebound attempts, boom, we got them. So again, back to resource, we got the resources to be. That might be something where it's like, I can't do that. We don't have. Well, then just have it on, do it on a sheet of paper. And we'll have the video reinforcement for it, but you can at least be like, if you're center, like our rule for our bigs, they gotta be going after 70, 75%. I mean, if it's less than that, it's like we can't have you're not rebounding. You're not going after rebounds. Guards probably more so 50 because of the first line of defense. We don't want them running in. We usually like to have the three kind of hover the nail. We're definitely sending two. But what's interesting now is now that we're talking about it, we've always used our athleticism to our advantage in terms of the offensive glass, sending guys. But what he's kind of toying around, we got a little bit of a different makeup this year is, Coach has developed a really good relationship with Nick Nurse with the Raptors. And I see Jimmy Oakman on here, and he can definitely, allude to this more than I can. But, in terms of analytics, teams in the NBA, they're really not sending anybody to the glass anymore offensively.
Right.
They're just getting back. So that kind of really hasn't made its way to college yet. You still see a lot of bully balls sending 3-4 guys to the glass and kind of just saying, go get it off the rim. We'll probably still end up sending 3, at least 2, and have one, take the high post. But that's why the coach loves the attempts part of it is not that did you go within what we're trying to do? Did you go attempt a rebound? And then it's the same thing defensively, like a missed block out. Absolutely 100%. You get a negative for that attempt. If you did not block him out and go pursue the ball with 2 hands. So that's one of the big post-game stats that we'll do. That's subjective. And then the other subjective, it's a combination of subjective and objective, is we do something called scoring assists, where we look at how many assists a guy, and this is more so for our guards, but it's for everybody who plays. We look at for our guards, what were their true assists? And then we kind of go through because we kind of get enamored with, oh man, they only had 3 assists. Well, if you look at the film, and we kind of run into this earlier in the year because, again, young teams just trying to get their feet wet. Guys aren't really making shots. Once we started doing the scoring assists 3 or 4 years ago, an idea brought to us by Joel Justice, who's now out of Arizona State. But it's like, let's take a look at, are we creating shots for our teammates? Because you look at the box score and it's just, oh, well, we only had 12 assists as a team. Well, maybe we just didn't make shots. Maybe we were really creating shots. We just couldn't hit shots. So we'll look through was it a hockey assist? You get one. A field goal attempt created. Did your pass just lead to him? Like if he would have made that shot, that's your assist, but he missed it. Then you get a field goal attempt created. We'll do screen assists, which we end up as the season goes on because we run a lot of floppy action pin downs. Our bigs, that's where, and again, it's just a total number at the end. Even though, if we've got a big who's really not a playmaking big for us, he can still get in the scoring assist category by screen assists. I know I'm forgetting one. Yeah, we got hockey assist, field goal attempts created. We've got the screen assist. We've got the true assist. And then like we call it a break starter. So if one of our big points of emphasis is anyone in transition offense, are we hitting that? Our first look is, are we hitting that ball ahead?
Right.
Pass that ball from the back court to the front court. That is a break starter for us. You get a break starter. But what we might, and again, we got to kind of figure it out, is again, we're looking at with our team this year, we got some skilled front court guys that can really get it and go and push the ball themselves. So are we going to consider that, even though they didn't pass it up the floor, if he did a really good job of busting it up himself, and then he's able to create out of the break, and that ends up, do we put that in? That's why it's very subjective. Are we going to start including that as a break starter? I don't know. We got to have those conversations. But so those are the two main, in terms of stat report, that we'll do. Obviously, our sports information people, they'll get Coach the official box score and all that kind of stuff. And then, like I said, we're tagging all of our makes, misses, who got what, this, that, and the other. So and what we kind of do, go on.
Sorry, Andrew. Sorry to jump in. My apologies. That post game review, who will then get it? Does it?
All of our assistants get. So yeah. So we'll have two sheets. We've got the players. We don't print them out for the players, but for a coach to prove a point. Like if let's say that game, Nick Richards had like a 47% rebounding attempt rate. Well, if he's going to prove a point to the kid, then we'll just have a PDF of it in the film room. We'll put it up on the board for everybody to see and be like, Nick, you understand, I'm not throwing Nick under the bus by any stretch of the imagination, but since we're talking about this season, this team, you understand that's not acceptable, correct? A 47% rebounding attempt rate. You are our star. You are our center. You're supposed to be our lead, and you only went after less than half of your. That's not acceptable. And usually at this point in the year, we don't deal with that. It's usually the first 5 to 10 games, especially when we get into the mid-major, low-major part of our schedule. And again, that's why we try to keep everything scouting-wise as consistent as possible. But we're dealing with human beings. We're dealing with players, not robots. Especially the young players, they see, an unrecognizable school to them on the front of their jersey, and, they play down to the level of their competition. And the process of things that we're trying to get better at and emphasize every day, that takes a hit because they're not focused and approaching this game the way. So that's when he kind of will use those subjective stats post-game next day, be like, I don't care if we beat so-and-so by 35 points and you had 20 and 8 blocks. And even if you had 9 rebounds, the stat line looks great, but you only you had 20 chances to go rebound a ball and you went after 9, not acceptable. And that's the other thing too, is that we're just going to continue to tweak with, is that's why I do like Ken Pom metrics of offensive rebounding efficiency, defensive rebounding efficiency, because if a team ends up making a ton of shots, like our numbers may not look that great if the other team just drills shots. So there's some things that we definitely got to work through with it. But again, those two stats, and that's coming directly from Cal. That's what he wants. So those are the two things that we got to get done that night immediately after the game and have it ready for the next day.
Love it.
Self-scouting.
Thank you. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to jump in. If not, I'm going to pull a couple of the clips from the game for you here. I have 10 of them. I want to go through, as I mentioned to you when we were talking before, I'll go through each clip 3 times. So the first time will just be so that everybody can see the clips from the game type deal. The second time will be me fumbling through a description, trying to not everybody who listens into this podcast is watching. Some people tune into it via like podcast app or Spotify. So I'll try to get a description going for them. And then the third time, give us some background, why you guys run it at this point, how you think you executed, what you would do different. Just want to have a film session with Coach Ortelli and sort of get your perspective after all your experience here. Let me try running this. And are we good with play speed? That looks smooth to you. Everything
that looks perfect to me.
All right. So this one's first play of the game. You guys win the tip. And we got a pass to the offensive left wing and then a handoff back. And we get into what I would call an Iverson cut over top. And then we pop to the point, and it turns into a wide pin down type action. This, I thought, was part of your continuity that you guys ran a lot through the game. After this reversal pass, we have another pin down or turnout screen along the baseline, which is curled for a jump shot in the paint. So first play of the game, talk me through it. How do you think what stands out? How do you think you did? What would you do the same, different, etc.?
Yeah. So the end of the play, we got to where we wanted to get to with the action. It just didn't execute the way, so right off the bat, that initial drive by Ashton, I'm not sure what he was trying, but this is part of one of our continuities that we've run for a while now. Coach loves a bunch of different pin down actions and different types of floppy, and this ended up being a turnout. He loved this, and we actually got this from Rick Barnes at Tennessee. They call it there. We end up calling it crossover. Not going to tell what our play call is for it, but that was our term for when they ran it. But we put this in a few years ago when Rick Barnes entered the league because we ended up having to guard it, and Coach really liked it because of its flexibility and its versatility. But the way we tweaked it this season, Emmanuel Quickly and Iris Maxey, they were so good.
Sorry, sir.
No, you're fine.
No,
they were so good at reading pin downs that we ran a lot of different pin down options for these guys. So Ashton kind of broke the play off to start the game. I don't know what he was looking at right there initially. But we ended up getting to what we wanted to get to. It just took a little bit more time to develop. And Emmanuel Quickly was so good at creating space off these pin downs and changing his speed, where he was able to create separation along that turnout on the baseline. So Tyrese kind of set up on the wrong side of the floor initially, but now we're fine and we're into it. And then that's just a read, he saw that. I believe it's McCormick was top locking him on that upside, that right side. So if you go back to right where Emmanuel Quickly is in the right corner, pause it right there, right when Tyrese kind of dribbles up to the top of the key. You can pause right there. So Emmanuel, again, unbelievable. We call it having an act. He had a great feel for being able to just sell where he wanted to catch the ball. So he recognizes, and this is the flexibility of this. And I'm looking at the other four guys, and they're not in the perfect positions. But again, what's a little discouraging is the first play of the game. It's like, come on, guys, got to execute. But he recognizes that McCormick is top locking. So one of our counters to any top lock is we got to have something going on the weak side, some type of weak side action, which is this turnout. And he's able to create separation. And Austin Wiley doesn't do a really good job of being above Nick Richards to help stunt that. So Emmanuel recognizes he's got separation. McCormick loses contact. He's going to just curl right to the elbow. And he was such a great mid-range shooter in general. First play of the game, if that's the shot we have, a curl right into the lane for a paint two, that's for who ended up being the SEC player of the year that year. That's the end result isn't what we wanted. The start of the play isn't what we wanted, but the shot attempt, that's about as good of a look as we're going to get to start.
Moving on, I think I pulled what would have been their first sort of set. I think this one's a bit of a defensive fumble.
So any video guy right here, if you go back to the NCAA graphic, please. Nothing ticks off video people than these cutaways. They're the worst. You can't see the action. It end up screaming at the TV.
I'm not monetized, but if I was, this would be a video.
This is me having a gripe with CBS production. I ain't winning that one. From my memory, a lot of their out of bounds sets were out of a 1-4 flat set along our terminology, we would call that a flat. If that 4 across was across the foul line, we'd call that 4 across. But it's across the blocks extended, so that's a flat set. My hunch is if you go back, try try to go back to the graphic as much as possible. Probably what ended up happening, some type of weak side. It's just tough to tell. Probably some type of weak side flare split out like that. I think from, again, memory, they would have some type of split action right in the middle of the floor. Some guy's diving, another guy's popping in the corner, and EJ Montgomery just completely. They either someone called a switch. I can't remember off the top of my head what happened. Somebody probably called a switch, and someone zigged when they were supposed to zag, and it left D'Angelo Purifoy with a wide open three. And he ended up this game. He scored their first three back. He had 3 wide open threes. I thought coach was gonna lose his mind on EJ on this one to start off the game. So yeah. So I think based on memory, that's what happened. But
great recollection. When you're, if you were in the truck or if you're in the back room looking at stuff, do you have any feedback that goes to the bench about something that you might see with this process of hey, I mean, it's not a play a coach likes, and if you want to correct stuff or whatever, then are you sending anything back hey, this particular player?
The rules changed. Now we can have bench technology this year. So we got to figure out again, and that's for our coaches staff. We can have technology. We can have iPads on the bench. So now we've got to kind of figure out how we're going to go about it this year. Is now with the new rules, they'd be able to replay that right there. I'm sure there's a little bit of a lag, but they'd be able to replay that on the bench, and coach would be able to see it. Now, in that special circumstance, because of that cutaway, you can't see what happened. Again, they're all sitting right there, so they saw with their own eyes what really happened.
Right.
Now, for us, regardless if we're on the film, we're on the road or at home, we shoot a self-scout ourselves of everything, because our head video coordinator has been here a long time. Tim Asher does an unbelievable job. He came from that generation of video people where even though we've got TV trucks and production, we need to have our own, because if all else fails and something happens with this, we got to have our copy. And it's just a coach's wide. It's just a wide shot. We're not, we're keeping all 10 guys in. We'll have a GA and student be on that during the game, home and on the road. But our
guys do that.
What's that?
I love that you guys do that, because
yep. Oh, go on.
I battle with my league sometimes about it. Some of them, some of the places we go to get angry that I want to shoot my own copy as well. And I'm I mean, we don't have the resources that you guys do. And some of these schools take 4 days, 5 days to upload a game. And I'm that doesn't work for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Luckily, we've got things in our league, but again, the enforcement of it, the reinforcement of it, I'm not going to get into that. But the way the league's set up is regardless if you shoot your own stuff or not, you've got 24 hours. Now, odds, because all these games are picked up on TV, Synergy picks up the games automatically. But if broadcast overlay or something, the home team is responsible for uploading any missing portions of the game. So we'll run into it every now and then, not too often, because we're again, the league that we're in, everyone's got a video guy, and they're at that level that they're at. They do a good job. They're going to do their due diligence and upload what they're supposed to upload. But yeah, so we always do we do our own, we shoot our own stuff for this very reason. So then when we review the film, there's not the excuse of, well, what happened on that play? Well, we've got our self-scout copy it's nothing TV based, and we will be able to see exactly what happened on that play. But that was some type of weak side split flare, wasn't communicated, and we had some type of confusion. That would have been my guess.
So this one's about 2.5 minutes into the game.
Mm-hmm.
This is a similar type action from the first one, where you pop and then you get the weak side turn out or pin down. But then we get a little bit deeper into the action, just sort of shows a bit of a wrinkle and a nice lob finish in there. Talk to me about, the wrinkles of the set, going to it, what you see, what you like.
So if you go back to where Emmanuel, he's about to come off that pin down from EJ Montgomery. So you can go ahead and play this. And then pause it right there. So again, this is the flexibility. Again, coach loves a lot of pin downs and floppy action. So the first time we ran that, the first clip where Emmanuel came off the turnout and curled to the elbow, Ashton just didn't he was supposed, what he's doing right now, that's a part of this action. He's going to come on and give Emmanuel the opportunity to come off this single from EJ Montgomery, or if he wanted to come off the turnout from Nick like he did the last time, he can do it. Well, he's able to kind of throw McCormick off of him. No, McCormick's on the ball. I think it's Smear Dowdy's guarding him in the weak side in that short corner. So he's able to come. So it's the same action, but he comes off the pin down instead of coming off Nick Richards off the turnout. And again, coach loves keeping his biggest thing, and we talk about in the recruiting process, is we give guys space to make plays. So we got a couple different things that we'll go to, but like, look how open this middle is. So off this pin down, and once Nick recognized that Emmanuel's coming off this pin down, you would have loved to see Nick kind of get more to the dunker spot to even free up more space. But the play ended up working out. So again, Emmanuel's unbelievable ability to read screens and create separation. Purifoy does a decent job of kind of stunting that elbow to kind of slow him down. But again, the weak side help of Auburn's right now, it's pretty bad. They're kind of hugged up on their guys. And Emmanuel's just kind of, he gets full head of steam. He's able to drive right to the SEC. And, from day one, we're one of the biggest proponents of, we don't like bounce passes to our bigs because they have to gather it. And by the time they gather it and go up, it's getting blocked by somebody. Now, again, we've got the athletes to do it. We don't throw bounce passes. We throw lobs. So as soon as Austin Wiley steps up, it's an automatic. And with our blood drills and all the different drill breakdowns that we do starting in the summer, we train with our guys every day. We'll do advantage, disadvantage situations. Big steps up. It's a 3-on-2. It's a 4-on-3. As soon as that big steps up, I'm throwing a lob. He gets in my line. It's a lob automatically. There's no thought. There's no nothing. And then what we've actually seen, I'm going off a little bit of a tangent. When we played, when Coach Pitino was at Louisville, it was the first time I'd ever seen it. They would take the lob away. So they wouldn't step up to stop they'd step up to stop the ball, but they would throw their hand. We had to work on, okay, you got to throw around their arms, but we're still not dropping that thing off as a bounce pass because of the athleticism I was talking about in our league. If you throw, I don't care how quick twitch the big is, if you throw that bounce pass to a big's waist, by the time he catches it, even if he's a 7-footer, by the time he catches it, gathers, and goes back up, it's getting blocked by 2 people.
Right.
So if you throw that lob at the rim, and that's the biggest thing too, because we've got a 5 this year who's going to be a really good player for us, Oscar Shibwe, but he's not a pogo stick of an athlete off the ground. But we're still working on throwing lobs. Even you don't have to catch the lob to dunk it. You just got to get in the air, catch it, and lay it in. You don't even need it to be a dunk. But that lob, catch, lay in, it can't be blocked if it's executed and caught. But the one that's a bounce pass and I got to gather it and then come up, it's getting blocked. People are blocking out with their elbows in our league. Right. So big, yeah. So Emmanuel turned that corner. He saw that logo. As soon as Austin Wiley stepped up in his line, throws a lob. There was bad crackdown help here by Isaac Okoro, with whoever. I think that's Isaac Okoro right there. Didn't do a good job recognizing that Austin Wiley stepped up too late to crack down. So we really had it was a 2-on-1 on the weak side, because if he cracked down, then you got Ashton Hagens wide open on the weak side for a driving kick. So as soon as he turned that corner, we were getting a good shot.
As you mentioned, you guys do stuff that are like bloodbath type drills where you're working on this. You'd be doing it out of your actions, basically, right? So you'd be set up in a similar formation and just this is like your guard forward breakdown type deal.
Even more like it wouldn't be really necessary out of our sets. It would just kind of be again out of so here I come, advantage, disadvantage. It's a slot drive. and the parameters we put on our guy, like the defense has literally no chance of stopping the offense because like we don't let them leave until they hit a certain play. He can't keep the guy in front of him because he's at a standstill. I can't retreat until he hits the jump circle, or I can't retreat until he hits a 3-point line.
Right.
And then it's really not out of like a set, right? But again, there's this slot drive. Here comes the big. Am I reading the crackdown? If I see the crackdown, the skip's going to be there. If he doesn't crack down and the big steps up, it's a lob. So what's great about these advantage disadvantage drills is you don't need to specify it with a certain set. It's just slot drive, middle drive. What are the spacing? If we reckon and keeping it super simple, big steps up, throw the lob. Big steps up, crackdown happens, skips wide open.
Love it. This guy I pulled because
they're tandem 2-3.
Yeah, exactly. So they went to a bit of a zone, just under 10 minutes in the first half. For anybody who's listening, just tandem 2-3 is how Coach Ortelli described it. I would say it even sort of looks like a 1-3-1, but
really does. It is like a 1-3-1.
And your guys seamlessly transition into what they needed to do. So credit to your coaching staff, video staff, all of that. Walk me through sort of what you guys had given them in preparation.
Yeah.
And
if you want to pause it right before Ashton passes the ball to Emmanuel, right there's perfect. So they're our terminology, tandem 2-3. It looks like a 1-3-1 for sure. For us, the reason why we call it a tandem 2, because the 1-3-1s that we face in our league, you're having some long, lanky guy at the top of it's usually right. X3, X4. We've got a guard right there, or you know what I mean? So and the way that the bumps happen in the slides, it acts as a 2-3, but it's just starting off in a tandem alignment. And what gives us problems, and Coach Barbie, who we've had, he was a big zone proponent. And there have been years where we kind of threw some zone in there if we were in foul trouble, but Coach Cal's not much of a zone coach. So we really don't spend too much time with it. Is the tandem 2-3, if you can start off in a different, little bit of a funky alignment, it can throw some teams off. But again, we know that this is a 2-3. So back to and don't play it quite yet. Perfect. That's perfect. Is again, back to the concept of, Coach is just trying to give these guys space to go make plays. So, of course, we've got some quick hitters out of zone. And that's the thing with zone offense, in just my opinion. There's only so many things you can run against zone. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, you're either trying to get the ball in the middle right at the nail or the high post. You're trying to get the ball on the baseline, and then you're driving gaps. And then we've got spacing, and we try to get the second drives or catch and shoots. So here, we hit a wing. We can cut this guy. We'll cut Ashton Hagens. You can go ahead and play, please. We can either cut him initially ball side or weak side, and then he just kind of chases. We'll have a screener that's Nate Sestina right down there. And a lot of the times, too, is since if this bump doesn't happen correctly and the defense overreacts to that overload, then that screener, Nate Sestina, you get a quick duck in. But basically, we're just trying to cut Ashton Hagens baseline to baseline. He gets it in a gap. And then we just drive it, treat it like same principles as we're trying to get that ball in the lane. We're not trying to, reinvent the wheel zone offense. So we kind of then that time he kind of breaks the play off, which ended up working out. He flashed to the middle. He gets to that weak side, short corner porch area. As soon as he catches it, defense, and he just drives that gap. And once you get that ball below the level of the defense, that middle drive against the zone, it's over because it's just the spacing and you just got too many options. So here,
as you mentioned, he broke
right there, that middle, it's over. Yeah. It's but yeah, Auburn, they're tandem 2-3. When they throw it in there, it's given us issues over time. And it's a great change of pace.
I just love the really cut itself. Like you mentioned the screen underneath, but then, breaking the play off, improvising, just sort of finding space. It's just,
Ashton was just such a heady player. And that's where Coach, if this didn't work out, Coach would have been like, what are you doing? Why did you flash to the middle, this, that, and the, but he got a feel for what, and, if you're producing, you can, within the flow of what we're doing, that nail flash, that wasn't supposed to be a part of this set, but he saw it and fixed it. That's one of our big terms, see it and fix it. He saw the middle was open, so he kind of had to make this backline wing kind of readjust to him. So there, and then you kind of see right here, these two guys, see how that wing, he had to come all the way up. Their rotations were totally screwed up because as soon as Ashton flashed to that nail and then he bumped out to the weak side corner, they were confused as to who's taking him. So
who goes there? Who goes there?
No one went. It's over. Yeah. So
love it.
That's the biggest thing with coach. That's why coach loves man. There's accountability with man to man. You know who you're supposed to guard, and based on weak side principle, you know who's responsible for weak side help. Zone is the gray. There's less account in his mind, and it's just his belief. There's less accountability in zone with who's supposed to be doing what.
So this one I liked because it was a little forward screen in a sideline out of bounds that turned into a bit of a horn set here. So inbounds, and then they go to a bit of a horns entry, and then forward screen. And the one guy just flips out because he recognizes that there's nothing in the middle there. Talk to me about accountability, as you mentioned, how you would fix it.
So Auburn, at the college level, pause it right there, please. At the college level, just how the game's played and where kind of the ball is out of bounds, there aren't a ton of teams in the NBA more so. Teams are telling you side out of bounds in special situations versus out of bounds under. In college, teams aren't really scoring out against just side out of bounds very often. But Auburn, they're one of the best teams in our league, and they actually run stuff, really good stuff, side out of bounds to score. A lot of teams, they kind of, because again, shot clock, all that, they're just kind of trying to get it in and get into their man. But here, so this is one of our big defensive schemes for this game. If you want to go ahead to when I think it was Isaac Okoro caught the ball on the wing, and you can pause it right when he catches it. All right, so pause. So one of the big adjustments that we try to make for this game is anything on the side we wanted to ice. The first game, if it's a we know it's going to be a ball screen. A lot of those rubs and shallows I was talking about earlier, hard to ice those. But that especially coming with Austin Wiley, because he was a little bit more slower footed, and he's not going to ghost out of these. He was going to set these screens. We had time to develop. We could get into our ice. But like any of our ball screen coverages, one of the biggest things that we preach with whoever's guarding the screener is ice. It doesn't matter. You got to retreat at the level of the roll. You cannot let that big get behind you.
Right.
Or you are putting everybody at an unbelievable disadvantage. So we wanted our ice to be a little bit more aggressive. We didn't want the big and drop. But again, our flat hedge principles, even though we're in ice, if he gets out, you got to go out with him. And then whoever's on the ball has got to readjust his position since there's no ball screen anymore. So, go ahead and play it through. A little bit of a defensive breakdown. Pause it right there. Tyrese Max, again, because of the geography on the floor, in this kind of situation, he should probably be, since Nate was so out of position, you almost want him all the way over at the elbow, ball side elbow, to be able – there is no tag on this guy. So we look at our weak side help. We need Ashton Hagens to have at least 1 foot in the lane. And then Tyrese's butt to the ball, just not good weak side defensive position. What we love about icing on the outer thirds is with a filled corner is you got more help because of that extra defender on the baseline, but we can't overcommit because we do not give up strong side corner threes. Like EJ Montgomery can't take this away.
Right.
The help's got to come from and we'll scramble out. But we cannot give this one pass. But the breakdown happened. Nate Sestina, I love Nate to death. That's my guy. But he broke down. He had a good game in this game. But he broke down on this one. He did not retreat at the level of the roll. And I believe there was a clip in here where this similar situation happened, and Ashton, this is a few possessions later. Ashton made an unbelievable play on the ball. He ended up stealing it. But yeah, this is just kind of we worked on this. It was just Nate was out of position. We were trying to ice all these kind of step up outer third actions, even though it didn't end up being a step up. Austin Wiley read it well. He kind of stopped short and slipped out of this role here to kind of combat the ice.
Sorry, Andrew, I heard something in there that was interesting to me, and I just want to reiterate, make sure I got it clearly. We did discuss sort of the breakdown being here, letting him get in behind. But did I hear you clearly in that you're a high tag team and you wanted him all the way over tagging? And then
preferably we would like him to be at the nail. Tough to it's again, we still need to tag him. We're a high tag team. We are.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
And because again, a lot of the defensive drills that we will do, because we talk to our guys all the time about is schemes are going to break down, things are going to break down. We're going to be scrambled. Like you're going to be times where we're just in a scramble because this breakdown happens. So because I think with the high tag with us, it's a little bit easier. But when we high tag, we can't get caught below this guy because then he can screen in and throw back, and we got issues. If we're a high tag team, it's a lot easier to kind of close out to that first pass versus low tag team. Then that's a long scramble. If they end up able to pass, skip that out, now we got an X. But we are a high tag team. It'll be interesting to see how we go about that this year. Again, new coaching staff, but that was kind of the old staff. That was one of their things. But yeah, Tyrese needed to be, if he was at the nail, then he would have had a better chance of making contact on that tag and at least slowing him down a little bit. But the reason why this broke down, Nate was just out of position. He didn't retrieve the level of the roll. And Ashton was just like Ashton on the flight of that pass, if he were at least 1 foot in the lane, he could have stole it.
Right.
He could have just flat out ran through. But I think a few possessions later, literally the same thing happened. He ended up running through and stealing it.
Right.
But
our rule on this over the top type lob is his head or the ball. So
I like that.
You're bringing me one of the two. You're bringing me his head or the ball.
Steal that.
Go get
I may or may not quote you on
it. That's fine. No problem. Excuse me, losing my voice a bit. So we are still in the first, near the end of the first. And I think really my question for this was just, is there anything that you guys do, clock management, to try and go 2 for 1, etc.? I was a little bit less focused on the set. Looks like a 4 low, trying to create from your best player.
Yeah.
I'll let it run so you can get an idea. Turns into a bit of a ram screen coming.
We actually had just put, because Auburn did a ton of this, so we actually had just put this in that week to prepare for guarding this, and we just ended up kind of running it ourselves. Coach like do is if he's a funny guy. He'll put something in not knowing that our team won't know that the other team runs it, and then whatever our play call for it is, and then we put it in. And then he'll say, they run our ram screen. And
right.
They don't know that, we actually stole it from them. But that's just kind of the mind, like
that's a great way to get your guys.
The program, they're always looking at what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, so this, in terms of 2 for 1, it's interesting you brought that up because one of our coaches, we had a conversation about this, an ongoing conversation. Coach Cal has never really been a 2 for 1 kind of guy. But, Coach Antigua coming from Illinois, Coach Underwood did a lot of that. And I think he's brought it up to Coach Cal that we might want to start diving into some more 2 for 1 opportunities. So historically, no, we've never done it. But honestly, and this is actually for this season, we really didn't run this ram action very much. We only ran it a few times the whole year. And like I said, we just put it in. But late clock, end of half, you hit the nail right on the head. Tyrese Maxey's our bet. We just want some type floor space, some type of action to get space for him to make a play. So
right.
A little ram, we get 2 on the ball, and
get off the ball, hit the shooter. That's it. Nothing.
Yeah, Nate was at 38%. And I think he did. I remember because I watched this game this week. Watch this game again this week. I believe that he ended up he hit a 3 late, and I think he had either just hit a 3 or it would have been, he would have just hit a three the possession or two before. He had a big game this game, I do remember. But we had 2 on the ball late end of half, and we our stretch 4 gets a wide open 3 from the top key at the end of the half, and he's a 38% 3-point shooter. So
I'm going to pause and just quickly ask you, and I see Mike DeCracker was in here. I don't know if he still is now, but he'll laugh at this, of course. I had asked you for 90 minutes. We're going to go over just a little bit here. I got 4 clips left. You're good on time? I want to be respectful of your time, of course.
Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely. I'm the one that's drawing this over. I'm rambling.
No, not at all. Not at all. Love it. Always the same. I love you, Mike. All right. So next one here. This is just like you said, the 4 low formation. I think my note to myself was just, wondering if you guys had all of their baseline out of bounds at this point.
Let's see. I can't remember what happened, but it's probably
this just basically is a screen and slip. There's not really contact on it. So on the 4 low, everybody pops up, screen and slip, and we get a nice cut to the basket. And to his credit, makes a difficult fadeaway shot over to
but that actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. So no, we had walked through this. This is one of their staples out of their 4 low, and their spacing's so good on it. And it's a big to guard back screen, and they do such a good job of screening. But we walked through this Tyrese, and Tyrese did a pretty good job of taking that away. Like, look, you can't lose contact on that guy.
Right.
You are getting screened, so you need to be. We will designate who's the connected guy, which is Tyrese. If you're the connected guy, then Nate Sestina, you both can't be like connected, because then you're basically acting as where the screen is coming to. So then you got to be the one to give a little bit. And the last thing I'll say about this, EJ Montgomery should have done a little bit better of a job of taking he started at the beginning, he's starting to float out to the, I don't know what he's doing. Use your length, take the basket away. And Nate Sestina, he does it, he forces him outside the lane. But if EJ would have done a little bit better job, he just kind of lets him throw this ball right there. It's like, you got to be better on the ball. And you allowed that pass. The guy made a tough shot, but that pass shouldn't have even been allowed. Nate just kind of fell asleep for a half second on that one. But, up until the end, we've guarded that about as well as you could. Tyrese did it about as well as he could. EJ could have been a little bit better. And then Nate kind of got caught slipping. He got a step. I think was that Pure? I can't remember. I think it was McLemore shot that one. He just got a step on him, was kind of able to use his size and shoot over the top.
Love it. Moving on, we're first play of the second half. I pulled it in. It was one that I liked. So for anybody who's listening, we get a handoff towards the left side of the floor. We come back with a reverse pass. Everybody's in motion, turns into a top ball screen that gets slipped out of, and that turns into a veer screen. So a screen away to the offensive right side after screening. Not great spacing, I think, on this pin down handoff or Chicago action. And then we attack the middle. We get a paint 2 out of it. Great make. Talk to me about the set. Talk to me.
Yeah,
you did mention that you guys talk in half. So, what are you looking at attacking here?
Yeah. So, again, I don't have the stats in front of me. I think Emmanuel did end up having a pretty good first half. You want to pause it real quick. Emmanuel had a good first half. I think one of the biggest points of emphasis was we got to go at him early. And like I said, Emmanuel's so good at reading pin downs and playing in space that way. That first initial entry, again, like I mentioned with Coach, we got a few different false actions that we will use to get into what we really want to get into. And that's one of them, that little trailer hit, dribble handoff, throw it back to get into this. And then again, this was kind of a new little wrinkle we put in, the ball screen into the pin down. I won't say what our terminology is for it, but ball screen into the pin down. Now, what's interesting is, and again, players making plays, you want to pause it right at the point of the screen. Perfect, right there. So the way the play is supposed to happen, but again, I don't know if Ashton kind of forgot, or he thought he saw something but the way the play is supposed to work, it's not supposed to be this pin down. It was supposed to be just a hit Emmanuel coming off the down screen. I didn't know if if Ashton saw a gap and he was just trying to break the play off, or if he kind of saw this option out of it. But again, coach giving guys freedom to make plays. Again, you were right. The spacing wasn't that great, but his little dribble handoff out of this, it ended up causing a bit of confusion because we really don't run this guard to guard Chicago action out of really any of us. So it caused a little bit of confusion. So that as the dribble handoff happens, they end up switching this. Let me see. No, yeah, they didn't end up switching it just because of the confusion and because of the separation that Emmanuel had on Doughty. And again, he was so good at getting in the lane, drawing fouls, staying on bound. He was just such a good paint to runner shooter.
Right. Just get square and forget it.
So we, again, using space, Emmanuel quickly ended up being our SEC player of the year. Let's get this guy the ball going to the middle of the floor. Regardless of the action that it is, getting him a downhill run right at that SEC, good things are going to happen. Good things.
Love it. I got two left. I got a great steal and a transition three. And Andrew, you might not know this, but this question is kind of a staple for my show. Transition threes for you guys, yay or nay? What's sort of your viewpoint on it? And if yes, what do you have to do to be able to shoot them?
Well, if you're as good of a shooter as Emmanuel quickly, you can shoot all the uncontested transition threes that you want. I think Emmanuel shot like 43 or 44% from three. So the way he was shooting the ball this time of the year and the work that he puts into his game and just how great of a shooter he is, if you don't let him shoot that ball at a transition steal, broken play, that's a layup. That was good as soon as he teed it up. So, I think again, in seriousness, transition threes for guys at our level, we're dealing with really highly skilled basketball players. If you want to create a style of play that, is attractive to recruits and people want to play for, if there are open 3-point opportunity, you got to let guys shoot now again, role allocation, knowing what, if that's not your shot, then you can't shoot that ball for us as a team. That's not a good shot for us. You can't do that. But, again, another kind of conversation where in transition, do you run for threes or do you run for layups? The numbers are there, an open three is better than, a contested two at the rim against even in transition. So, but again, and one of coach's biggest things, have you put the time in? Have you earned the right to shoot that shot?
Right.
Question of any guy we've ever had here. Emmanuel quickly's open at the top of the key. That's a no-brainer. Let it go. And we all knew that was as good as it. By the time that guy, that was money in the bank. Absolutely.
And
you let Emmanuel quickly shoot open transition. Absolutely.
Love
10
it.
times out of 10, no question.
And then last one was just basically, in my opinion, the last real opportunity they had to make it a game. You guys did end up winning the game, as we discussed. And after this possession, it goes to and sort of remains at the 9. There's no more back and forth. But I'm just kind of wondering, end of game, do you guys have any special instruction for your guys when, it's a 3-possession game? We get a handoff and a reverse. We get an attack towards the outside, and then you get a monster block from your rotation low man. Do you have any sort of hey, don't foul, don't be as aggressive? What's the instruction that goes in?
We'll be a little bit more, again, it's just our verbiage. We don't want to tell them be less aggressive, but we'll tell them to, again, trust your instincts, but understand, in this situation, we're up 9 with 1:30 to go. We're not going to be turning the dribbler 2 times in the backcourt. We're going to come back, heels on the 3-point line, and make them score through us. So this is a great clip in terms of matchups for this game. The first time we played them, and Isaac Okoro played well, but he killed us the first game. Player with the ball right now. Killed us from the line because we fouled him a million times. Our matchups really weren't that great in that first game. What we had to kind of figure out was, because for his size and how they played him at the 3, he was really too big and physical for our guards, and he was too quick for our front court players. So what are we willing to live with? And what we decided we were willing to live with were, we're going to put a smaller, quicker player on him, like a Tyrese. And Tyrese was the perfect example, because Tyrese is strong as an ox now for being 6'2", 6'3". He built like a fullback. So even though he's a guard, he's got some strength to him. You know, he's still going to be a little bit physically outmatched against an Isaac Okoro, but ability to play through be able to bump him a little bit and give him some resistance. But we basically were willing to live with, we can't let this guy play against our front court guys and just beat us on straight line drives. Let's have a backcourt player, regardless if it's any of our 3 guards. We'll be physical with him, be aggressive, and just make him score through us. And I don't think they really posted him a lot this game, but in our first game, they ran a lot of elbow isolations for him, a lot of different kind of little post-up wrinkles where to attack our smaller matchup. And again, just playing the numbers, it's like post-up possessions, elbow isolation possessions against a loaded defense, points per possession value. Those are much lower value possessions in terms of output than what you're going to get if he just gets a straight line drive against the big, and then now we're SOL. But here, Nick, again, trusting instincts, because Emmanuel did not do the best of job. He cracked down, but Austin Wiley did an even better job of kind of relocating to the front of the rim. He couldn't sit on his top leg. So if Nick doesn't block that shot, that is unless it's a crazy bounce, that's a tip dunk from Austin Wiley.
Right.
We didn't crack down. But Nick, again, NBA draft pick, he's able to use his length, his size. We're able to, when you got a shot blocker like that, you can cover up for a lot. So this will be my last thing about this clip, a term that we use, and Tyrese did a great job of it. You're guarding the on-ball player. You just need to occupy his eyes, because you're not going to block his shot. He's a terrific player. But you need to occupy his eyes. So he's worried about, can I get this shot over my guy? And trust your teammates to be able to come over and cover for you and clean that off the glass. And Nick was able to do is he stepped over, he timed it perfectly. And that, I mean, if he makes that's an and 1, cuts the lead to 6 or 5. I wasn't a math major, but cuts the lead to 6. Like, this could have been a completely different game. But that block really, that kind of sealed the game. But that's just
well, Andrew, never in my life did I meet the ball up there. That's
well, yeah, you and me both. I didn't put the ball up there on like a 7-footer.
Right. I hear you.
Again, this is a great example of the play really didn't beat. It's just trusting our training. How do we approach individual defense? How do we approach team defense? Breakdown happens, slot drive happens. Who's coming over to rotate? Who's cracking down? And like I was talking about the other clip, is defensively the scramble, like when Nate was out of position on the ice. Right. Breakdowns are going to happen. What do we immediately, instinctively, and that's why you got to drill this stuff every day. That's why, coaches in the Hall of Fame, and this is, the stuff we work on continually throughout the year, both sides of the floor, is these advantage, disadvantage, scramble situations where we got to know who's covering for whom. And one of the biggest terms that we use is you're guarding your man and one other. You're guarding two people on the floor at once. And he always says, our great defensive teams, you're guarding your man and 2 others. You're able to stun here, stunt there, and it looks like we got 8 guys out there when we only have 5.
Right. Love it. I think that's a beautiful place to end it. And I want to take a second and just say how grateful I am of you spending some time with me and my audience and sharing what you guys are doing at such a fantastic school, obviously. And I want to go on record as just saying that, you know, obviously I send the questions to people in advance. I just think you did a tremendous job of like going through and getting everything, you know, even ahead. So just loved how you were rolling in there. Really, really appreciate it. All the coaches that jump on, thank you so much. Means the world to me. Everybody who tunes in and listens, thank you so much. Means the world. I hope you continue to find value. Andrew, you know, just like I said, there's nothing more I can say, like in terms of how much in gratitude I am for your time. I'm going to stop the recording here, but do hang out if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's sometimes coaches have something they want to say afterwards that
Yeah,
they want to put on camera or
I've
whatever.
got my schedule completely free today. So if you guys have any questions or whatever on what I'll do. And before I get into that, Coach, really appreciate your time given me the opportunity to chat with you and talk hoops. My favorite topic of conversation.
That's it.
But yeah, I'm gonna stay on, and then I'll put my for anybody that wants to reach out and email or phone, I'm gonna put my I'll put my email and my cell in the chat right now.
Perfect. And for anybody who's listening that would want that as well, please get in touch with me, and I'll be happy to let Andrew know that you've reached out and pass it on to him, to pass it on to you for him.
For people, I can go ahead and verbalize it too, if that works.
Yeah, that's great.
My email, Andrew, AndreW .Ortelli @uky.edu.
Perfect.
ORT as in Tom, ELLI, Andrew.Ortelli @uky.edu. My cell is 908-745-8802. For the people on, I'm gonna type it in the chat, but you know, please reach out. Any questions? You just want to connect. Really appreciate everybody's time, but especially you, Coach. This is great. I love the opportunity. Thank you.
Run it back, crowd. I'll see you guys next week.
Appreciate it, guys.